Alright, welcome back. So, it's finally that time. The frame is pretty much dry. I mean, it is dry. It's been drying for a while now. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. The engine, I've moved over here. This, I'm now going to attempt to get back into there. Now this fits, I think it comes in and out of the right hand side of the bike because this mount is welded, this one is bolted on, so the engine goes in and out here. I saw a little trick online, someone else doing a bobber build, where basically what they did is they lay the engine down. I've got a couple of old pillows here. So you lay the engine down on the pillows and then you lay the frame down on top of the engine, bolt it in, then put it all upright as one thing. It saves your spine getting shattered into pieces trying to lift the actual engine block into the frame. I am gonna lay this thing down and then see if I can slot the frame on top. You can just lay it down like that, put the mounts on, put the frame on, then put the mounts on, bolt them all in, and you can lift the whole thing up together. Obviously, it's way heavier afterwards because you've got the weight of the frame and the engine in there. But yeah, I mean, that was much easier than trying to get the engine in while it was all upright with the frame rocking about or whatever. It's a neat little trick that I learned doing my last bike. When you're putting your new bearing races in, what you can do is save your old ones, and then when you get these in, you can then put these upside down on top of the new ones and hammer onto these, and it helps to push those in sort of equal pressure. So I'm going to get this one started and then use the old one to help hammer that one in. There you go, you see that one's sort of flush with the top now? So hammering that is going to be difficult. So now what you do is you get your old one, place it on the new one, and you hammer onto the old one. Then this one you can just pop straight back out. Where are we? There you go, fully seated. Recessed. Got the grease poking out down the bottom. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now do the same with the bottom one. There we go, that's both of them recessed. These will squish tight when you torque up the steering stem bolt, but yeah, that's the best way of doing it, I think, that I've done. Is basically, you know, get it so it's flush. I had to be a bit more careful with this one because the hammer was really small and I didn't want to smash this painted edge, so I tried a few different hammers, but yeah, the bigger hammer with the wider head was better. And then eventually when it was flush, you just put this one in and then you just hammer on that one until it's completely home, fully seated in that little shoulder in there. So yeah, that's the two bearing race fitted in there. I'm not going to fit these bearings just yet. These are going to be on the steering stem, which is over there. They're not going to go in yet until I've completely packed them with grease and stuff. So they're not going to go in just yet, but they will sit nicely in there eventually. Okay, here's the carbs fully assembled. I know we've done carbs already, but I've just installed the fuel line. This is a new fuel line. It's got the old spring on it. It looks a bit rusty up close, but it's not too bad. What else have we done? Yeah, new. It's like got a braided cloth outer, so it's much better than the old one. The old one is this one here. It's just rubber, and it is absolutely rock solid. If you try and bend this, it literally just splits. It's like rock solid plastic. Anyway, replace that. I've got the rubbers on there already. They're on there. So now it's just a case of trying to maneuver this guy into that gap, which I believe is fairly straightforward, but I know it can be a bit fiddly because the velocity stacks and everything sticks up. So I'm going to give that a go now. Oh, that was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I did watch the TJB Customs install video for the carbs, and he does say just like get a load of spit in there in those rubber boots and they just slide straight on. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty straightforward. They're in there. I'm not going to tighten these up just yet because I'm probably going to have to take these off again at some point to do some tuning. But I mean, they're on. I mean, they're pretty stable as they are. But I will tighten the straps up eventually. But yeah, they're looking pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy with that. These engine bolts, mount bolts, these are all torqued up now. In the process of trying to see where I can get these stripped and repowder coated. I'm also looking into getting the spokes relaced. Mainly because when I took the rim tape off, there's a lot of sort of corrosion in here where moisture's obviously gotten in. And I think it would just be a good idea, considering this bike's over 30 years old, to get these relaced anyway. But so far that is proving incredibly expensive. So my bottom yokes have been in the freezer for like 3 days. I've packed this bearing full of grease and I've put the dust shield on the bottom. So before this gets too warm, I'm going to tap this down with my drift and the little pin hammer. I'd usually do this with like a PVC piece of pipe that goes over the top of this. Then you just smash the pipe and it puts it all down uniformly. Unfortunately, I don't have any pipe that will fit this, so I'm just going to tap it down equally on each side with my drift, and then that hopefully should go down. There we go, that's that guy on. You'll probably see a transition to actually hammering this thing on with a bit of pipe. The drift was working, but it was so slow, and you probably see that this was all starting to sort of thaw out when this bearing started to freeze. Everything's going to contract, and yeah, because it's so cold, the bearing's going to contract, this is going to expand, it's all just going to happen too quick. Anyway, so what I did was I went around my garage in search for some tube, and I actually found some which was the exact right diameter to sit on that inner race. So you don't want to be hammering on that outside edge, you want to be hammering on the inside of the bearing, because you don't want to crush your bearing. Yeah, that piece of tube I found was actually sort of the extending stem from my this is my mountain bike whatever it's called, service thing. You know, you hook your bike into the top and then you can work on your bike off the ground. It's like a tripod thing. Anyway, it was the exact right diameter to sit on top of this inner bearing bit here. I painted the top part off camera, mainly because the bottom part was steel, so that needed to be treated because otherwise it just rusts to death. And the top part was aluminium. So I actually polished this up and it looked really nice. And then I came to try and polish this up and it was just a complete nightmare. It just was not in a good state to be polished. And then obviously rust, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, what I've done is I've painted this top one to match the bottom one. I did see a few pictures online of shadows that had mismatched colour on the top and bottom yolks, and they looked alright, but I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to, for the sake of just painting it, I'm just going to paint it. But yeah, this has come out really nice. This bearing's on now. This is ready to go on. What else have I been up to? I have fitted the springs with the little clips going through the little nylon bushings. They're on there quite nicely. They don't wobble around nearly as much as they used to. The E-tank I have actually painted. You can't really tell on camera, but this is like the metallic graphite that I originally painted the frame in and didn't like. And then this is the dark anthracite colour. It's really hard to tell on camera, but there is a difference. It's not massive, but it's just, you know, it's good enough. But that's on there now. That just literally just bolts through here on these two bits. I've got the cables in there that come up from the magneto case in there, and then the neutral switch and the oil pressure sensor. That's what I'm trying to say. I also fitted the chain guide. That's on now. I'm in the process of just putting this thing back together. Okay, this is a little bit annoying. I just did all this and my camera wasn't even recording. But yeah, I mean, this is on now. It's looking pretty good. I've got like a nice little bolt going through there. And then under here, I've got those little nylon bushes, spacers, whatever you want to call them. This seat is absolutely rock solid. You can wobble this about. I mean, that's the whole frame wobbling there, but there's absolutely no movement in that seat anymore. I'm pretty happy with that. Haven't sat on it yet because it's still up on the jack. I don't want to rock about. Oh, also, what I've done here, I removed the original tank mounts that were here. I've decided, instead of using this tank, I'm gonna, because this one's gonna be more like a sort of an old school chopper looking thing, this one I'm gonna use one of the peanut tanks. It's a little bit of a cop out because I did do a little bit of work on this. What I've noticed with this one is inside here, you can't really see, there's no rust, but it's got like a weird crusty film in there. Plus that is full of sandblasting debris that I would need to wash out, and then having to line this tank again would just be a complete nightmare. So I'm going to keep that one as a spare, just in case this one is knackered. But yeah, what I've done is, over the past day or two, I've really carefully cut out these welds, removed those brackets. I re-primered all of this section and this section, where I angle ground all the welds down, and I tried to keep it as neat as I could, and then re-primed, repainted, re-lacquered. So that is why the engine is covered up. Anyway, seat's on. Pretty happy with that. Sorry I didn't catch that on the video, but now what I'm probably going to do is, now that I've got the lacquer on here, I did put another coat on earlier, but that is touch dry at the moment, so that's fine. What I'm going to do now is I am going to fit the yokes on the front. So here I've got all the parts for the steering head section. I haven't packed this bearing with grease yet, but basically this guy goes in here, up through the bottom, out through the top. Dust seal goes on. No, sorry, bearing goes in. Dust seal goes on. Then this sort of shielding nut goes on. That gets tightened to 25 Newton meters. Then you've got like a locking tab washer. And then this one goes on. This one gets tightened up by hand and then locked in with the other tabs. You bend those back over once it's locked in. And then that's that guy through. Then it's the washer, and then finally the nut on top. Now, I don't have, I mean, it's pretty obvious by now, I don't have the tool that tightens this guy up. It's kind of like a 4-pronged socket goes on there, and then this one is like, I think, an 8-prong, but you can still use the 4-prong. I think these actually line up. Yeah, they line up. So what I'm going to do is I've got an old socket here, and I've got some scrap steel here, and the plan is I'm going to use this section of steel. I'm going to measure out the gaps between these notches. I'm going to cut out a notch here, just slightly more than the depth of this washer, or maybe this one. I think they're about the same depth actually, slightly more than that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that off there, and then I'm going to cut a slot into this. I've got loads of these, so I'm just going to cut a slot into this. I'm going to weld down the sides, so this and this become one piece, pretty much sort of something like that, except this will have a notch cut out of it. And then I will use this to torque up this. Now this is only 25 Newton meters. It's not very much at all. If I had something that I could just put in there, I don't have a socket big enough that I could just notch. But if I had something I could just put in there, that's pretty easy with the torque wrench. I just don't have that little socket. Now I've tried to look for it, and they're like 30 quid. It just seems like a waste of money when I can probably just fabricate one myself. So that is what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I forgot to turn the camera on for this, but basically what I've done is I've just angle ground out a couple of notches into this socket. This guy is sort of notched, so that fits nicely into those sort of grooves here, and on this nut fits into those. It's about 41 mil, around about there. So basically the plan is now is to get that going fairly central, and then just weld up the sides. There we go. I mean, I haven't tightened this bolt up fully. That needs to be torqued up properly. I'm not going to do that just yet because I need to put the forks in first to get these properly aligned. But that is the headstock on there. It's pretty nice and smooth. Can't remember that. I painted the what's this? This is a speedo mount, cable retainer thing. So that's on there now. That's nice. I did have to make a slight modification to my tool, mainly because I completely forgot that this actually has to go down on top of that tube, and I hadn't allowed for the stem to actually go anywhere. So I just cut off a piece of old scrap tube here, welded the socket onto the end, and then welded those little tabs onto the sides of this instead. I mean, if it was ugly before, it's even uglier now, but it did the job. Can't moan. I'll keep it handy. It's pretty strong. I mean, it just needed that extra sort of depth down there to be able to get over the stem once I was fitting it on. So basically, had to go sort of further down than the socket would allow. If I'd have used a bigger socket, probably, but I didn't want to waste one of my larger ones. This one I had spare laying around, so. Yeah, once I've got the forks in, once I've finished the forks, I haven't even started them yet, but once they're done, they can go back through here. This will all line up, then I'll torque that bolt down. But yeah, that's the front on.